can't think of a more fitting way to start the stream than by airing the stream ending video instead of the stream starting video by accident. Coming off the last week that was in Vegas, WrestleMania week, we are here live for episode 595 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. Our first time back on Wednesdays in quite a while. Usually the show airs on Tuesdays. This is not a new, consistent, regular thing. We're only going live on Wednesdays for this week, with it being WrestleMania week, and I just flew back yesterday, so that would have made that impossible. I would say the last 24 hours have been hectic. Really, the last week has been hectic, as you would probably imagine. Some of the content not going up on time and all that other sort of stuff, so we should be back to normal. I would say relatively soon. I have no idea. Usually the lead up to Mania, the week itself, and then the post week, the follow-up for Mania is usually pretty bad as far as like catching up on stuff, being in physical pain, just mentally fucking burnt out and exhausted. That's pretty much where I'm at right now. But that being said, I did want to do a stream answering some questions that you guys sent in through the usual social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll get into those as we get going here today. Do want to do, the usual shout-outs for our channel members, some of whom I got to meet actually in person and see in person over the weekend at WrestleMania. We'll get into that. Big shout out to our channel members: Alexis, Miss Maud Matthews, Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve 1, who I actually saw at Mania Weekend. We met at Royal Rumble Weekend, and we've been talking a whole lot since then over text and DMs on Instagram, and we were wondering when we can meet up over Mania Weekend. We actually were able to get that done after Raw on Monday. And I saw him actually at Raw itself, but we hung out after Raw on Monday, which was awesome. Got some in and out, and we hung out for a couple hours. So that was great. Great seeing Swerve. Can't wait to see you again soon. Daniel Malcolm, I actually also met in person. Find him on the X Machine. You can find Swerve, by the way, on IG at Swerve1, WON, so Swerve1. And then Daniel's on Twitter at I'm Quarter, letter I, letter M, and the word quarter. He's on X there. Met Daniel the first time actually over Mania Weekend, right before Raw, and I felt so bad having to constantly reschedule. We went back and forth over the DMs quite a bit, leading into right before I left on Tuesday, because we flew in. Alexis and I did to Vegas on Wednesday, so we were there for pretty much 6 or 7 fucking days. And there was just something always going on. So it was a great weekend, very rewarding, fun weekend. But there's just a lot going on. I'm still fucking tired. But it was great seeing Daniel. That meant a lot to be able to make that happen on Monday right before Raw. And look forward to the next time as well. So shout out to Daniel. We exchanged some text afterward. That meant a lot to me. So Daniel, thank you so much for that. For the time, even though it was brief, I look forward to the next one. Hopefully in the not too distant future as well. RJ Marceau, of course, you can find him on the X Machine at RJ_Marceau on X, and John Ritland on the YouTube Machine. Big shout out to John as well. Find him here on YouTube at Real Honesty with John Ritland, and of course Richie on Red Planet Wrestling here on YouTube as well. Shout out to him for also becoming a channel member. So if you would like to consider becoming a channel member, it's only $5 a month. You can sign up for the WrestleRant All Access Pass. There should be a join button at the top of this video. All the videos here on the channel if you're watching on a PC, but most people usually watch on their fucking phones and shit. If you're on your phone and whatnot, I think there's either a way on the channel to sign up to become a channel member on the channel itself, or just in the description box of any of these videos. Click on the link, check out all the perks, which do include top billing on #AskGSM and WrestleRant Radio. So any questions or topics you want us to discuss or questions you want me to answer, you will have them answered first here on the show. You will also get shout-outs at the beginning and end of every single live stream, as you just heard. Discord access, which I will be opening at some point soon. Badges and emojis in the live chats for all these live videos. Members-only live streams, which we will be doing hopefully one in the next couple of weeks once the Mania stuff kind of blows over. Early and ad-free access to certain videos, including shorts and whatnot. You don't get ad-free access on those, but I think shorts are ad-free anyway. But yeah, I didn't get to do any early ad-free access to videos in the past week. Again, given the circumstances and whatnot, the fucking time change really fucked me up. But hopefully we can get back to that in the next couple of days. There's a lot of videos I still have to publish. We did a WrestleRant ranks video, which I typically do on Mondays. I was going to put that up on Monday. Legitimately, I just didn't have a chance. We filmed it a week and a half ago. And I will post it this week. So that will be up at some point. I have yet to finish the Mania 9 documentary, so I still have to watch that and review it. I still have to watch and review Dark Side of the Ring from last week, not even mentioning this week. So literally so much shit to catch up on. In addition is so much more. And I promise you, it will all be up eventually. You just got to give me a chance. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you want to send in a question to this show ahead of time, you can tweet me on the X machine, on the Twitter machine, at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post. I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. And also, if you're joining us live, first of all, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll get to chat in just a moment. If you want to send in a question during the show, you can do so. I'll answer it here live on the stream. And be sure to subscribe and, hit the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up and every single time we go live here on the channel, which is typically Tuesdays and Thursdays, sometimes Wednesdays, other days of the week. You never really know when we might be going live. But we should be live for WrestleRant Radio tomorrow. Still working out the details there, and we'll figure that out. But tomorrow we'll do a full-on review of Mania weekend, all the big highlights. Raw on Monday, which was awesome. Got to go to that on Monday, courtesy of Netflix. Big thanks to Netflix for that. And yeah, it was just a fun weekend. So we'll probably be back on track with WrestleRant Radio tomorrow. We got to do that live from Las Vegas last week, and then hashtag AskGSM next week should be back on a Tuesday. So you can join us for that. But I think that's about it. Big thanks to everyone joining here in the chat, including Alexis, of course. And Nathaniel is here saying, hey, how's it going? Millennial Noob also here saying hello. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in live. I appreciate it. Nathaniel said, I thought The Rock was showing up for WrestleMania 41, but instead we got Travis Scott. I was disappointed. Were you? Disappointed is an understatement. The overall match wasn't even that great between Cody and Cena, but then the Travis Scott shit just didn't even make sense. Honestly, if you did that same match without the Travis Scott shit, I probably would be less frustrated, because if you're going to have Travis Scott out there, you got to bring out The Rock and some other smoke and mirrors. I know we've got a lot of smoke and mirrors with the Mania main events in recent years, and at some point that's got to stop and just have a regular fucking match. But that being said, you can't have Travis Scott out there and then not have The Rock, considering Travis Scott was aligned with The Rock at Elimination Chamber. That whole shit just didn't make any sense. Did not make any sense. Nathaniel also said he liked 38 and 39 a little bit better. He said, how do you feel about Becky turning heel, and did you like her Mania return? I thought the whole thing was really well done. I hate the fact that Bayley was advertised for Mania and then she was taken off the show. I know that she was bothered by that. You saw that clip from the Chris Van Vliet interview that went up, or the clip that went up yesterday. That was fucking annoying. And hopefully, I mean, you can't even really make up for it. Like, I know that the direction is probably Becky and Bayley again, this time with the roles reversed. We're obviously getting Becky and Lyra, all this other sort of stuff. I don't know, man, but like just the way they executed it, I thought overall, beyond the Bayley stuff, was really well done, because they got to win the tag titles and then they immediately lost the tag titles, and Becky turned heel, and we haven't seen her as a heel in a while. I hope the heel turn is better done this time, because when she first went heel, or last went heel in 2021, I just didn't really think it was all that well done. And I didn't love Big Time Bex. Although she did great work as a heel at that point, some of the stuff she was doing and dressing up as, I don't really want to see Big Time Bex back, quite honestly. Just keep her as the man, but just give it a little bit of a tweak. You also said, I'm excited for Seth Braun and Heyman duo. I agree. If they can add another person or two to that mix, maybe Becky Lynch, I would be completely on board. Fernando, what's going on, dude? Thank you for joining us. He said, what's up, everyone? He also said, how fun was Vegas, buddy? Vegas was great. The issue, or not the issue, but the difference between this time and the last time I was there for a lot. Actually, really not that much of a difference. I was probably there from Wednesday to Tuesday last time, 4 years ago. I was there for the same period of time this time, actually. The difference, though, is that I had a lot more time to just not do much and just take advantage of the fact that, everything is a lot closer in Vegas, and enjoy Vegas itself. Vegas was great. It was a very fun weekend. The problem is WWE just booked so much fucking garbage, like events like the Mania After Dark stuff. They just booked so much shit. It's hard to keep up, and they were constantly changing the schedule. It was a fucking mess. And also the stuff where they did all the events at the Talent Hotel, that was the Talent Hotel, where they did the Hall of Fame, which thankfully I did not go to. I probably would have fallen asleep. Everything was at the Fontainebleau. Everything was at that one hotel. That's where they did NXT last night, except for like Raw and SmackDown and shit, which thank God was at the T-Mobile Arena. That was within walking distance of everyone on the strip. The Fontainebleau was significantly farther down, not that much farther, but still farther than it should have been. That was bothersome, but otherwise it was a fun weekend. Just a lot going on. Nathaniel said, "Hi, Fernando. Or do you think Becky will be a liar for the IC Championship?" I do as well. I don't think we know when The Rock's next appearance is, Nathaniel. I agree. I don't know when the next appearance is either. Honestly, it's kind of hard to care. The Rock shit, it's just, I've said my piece on it. We did a whole live stream ranting about it, a couple of months ago, back when he said, "Cody, I want your soul," and all this other sort of shit. Now he's just doing damage control for the fact that he wasn't at WrestleMania. And I don't know. His explanation for why he wasn't at Mania made no sense. He was trying to say, "Oh, got to get the spotlight off of me and onto John Cena." But then why involve yourself in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, that's the part to me that didn't really make sense. Just fucking stupid. Just very, very dumb. But I agree, Fernando. The Rock needs to stay out of creative plans. I agree with that. To keep him out, and he adds nothing at this point. Aside from the occasional cameo, he is actively taking away from the product. He's derailing creative plans and just all this other bullshit that just doesn't make sense. I mean, this has been the case for over a year now, but it's never been more apparent than right now that they have no fucking clue what they're doing with The Rock and what he wants to do. He really just shows up whenever he feels fit, whenever he sees it's convenient, whenever he sees fit. And then with no real regard for the long-term plan or the interim plans, and just there's no real rhyme or reason, and it's really, really fucking annoying. Nathaniel said Roman might retire after 42 because his contract is up, and I don't know if he's re-signing. I saw the interview that he did, or at least that clip, where he said that he might have a year and a half left or whatever on his deal, and he might want to step away to doing a less physical form of entertainment. I mean, I suppose, is Roman going to go out and do movies like Cena and Rock? Maybe, but Cena was doing a lot more movies while he was in WWE than Roman has. Roman did that one movie about a year ago after he wrapped up at Mania 40, and has that movie come out yet? Has he been cast in other stuff? I still think he sticks around. I mean, he barely fucking wrestles as it is. I mean, how much less of a schedule will he work? Like, does he want to work? It sounds like he wants to step away completely. I don't believe that he probably will re-sign for even less dates than what he's currently on, if I had to take a guess. He'd probably work more of a Brock schedule. And even Brock had more appearances than Roman at certain points. But anyway, Nathaniel also said he gave up on The Rock after he didn't show up at WrestleMania. Why was he involved? Their question's as good as mine. I have no fucking idea. We'll talk more about it on WrestleRant Radio tomorrow. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through the questions that we have from YouTube and Twitter from the last couple days that people sent in. I can't promise you this video will be as long as the other ones. One, we don't have a ton of questions, and two, more so I'm just fucking tired. So I can't promise you we'll be here all day as we usually are here on the show, and hopefully next week I'll have more energy and be able to contribute a bit more than what I will be doing today. So let's go to the YouTube questions, some of which were already sent in like a week ago, even before Mania. That includes Micah, actually. Micah sent in a question saying, "I'm predicting a John Cena win on Sunday," and he was right. "So what are your thoughts on John Cena winning his 17th championship?" Well, that would have been an embarrassing question had he not won, but thankfully he did. Again, like I said, we'll get into more of it on WrestleRant Radio tomorrow as far as our full thoughts and the show and the finish. The finish was fucking awful. The actual match, honestly, wasn't that good either between Cody and Cena. It was not very underwhelming. It was a tad underwhelming. The match itself was whatever. But if you're going to do the bullshit with like the interference and all this other stuff, you got to do it right. Why even have Travis Scott out there? Because it immediately raised people's expectations to think The Rock would show up. And honestly, if you're going to have one and not the other, it should be The Rock and not Travis Scott. Who gives a shit about Travis Scott in WWE? I mean, honestly, I know he's a big name and whatnot, and that's cool. But like, the whole execution of that thing, it sucked. I know Cody gave him his comeuppance after Travis Scott beat the shit out of him at Elimination Chamber. Remotely, not even remotely the same thing. Travis Scott like legit hurt Cody. Cody hit him with a crossroads, which I'm sure barely hurt. So I'm sure Cody protected him. But anyway, not exactly the equivalent. And then you do the whole belt thing. Cody looked like an idiot. It was just not a good finish. It felt like a Raw main event finish. That was not well done. The correct outcome, definitely the correct outcome, but the wrong execution of that finish. I wouldn't go, like Dave Meltzer was saying, I wouldn't go so far as to say it was one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. There were far many, many more matches I would name as like worst main events than that. But it was underwhelming considering the build-up and just the circumstance and even the outcome. The finish could have been better. But Mike's other question, which I put in the headline for this video, buy or sell, Mania 38, 39, or 40, 41? It's a great question. And honestly, I think all 4 Manias were good to great. I mean, none of those Manias were bad. And even 37, which you didn't include, obviously, but even 37, which was the, not the COVID Mania. 36 was COVID Mania. 37 also happened during COVID, so they had to reduce capacity for the building in Tampa. We had to wear masks while we were there. So I technically consider that to be the sequel to the COVID Mania, which it literally is and figuratively as well. But even 37 overall was a good show. I thought 37 was fun. All these other Manias I think were better overall. If I had to pick, honestly, I might go 38, 39. Mania 38 Night 1 was fucking awesome. 38 Night 2 wasn't as good. Night 1 was awesome overall. And it was just a very good show. 39 might be the best Mania of that bunch by far. I think both of those Manias were excellent. 40 and 41. 40 was very good overall. 41, honestly, might be the weakest. I thought the case with this year, Night 1 was good, but it was made very good by that main event. It was kind of like a Raw show, basically, a glorified Raw up until the ending. And then Night 2 was overall much better. But then the main event was a lot weaker than that Night 1 main event. So kind of a mixed bag of a show. So I would still probably go 38, 39 for the sheer fact that 39 was overall one of the best WrestleManias of all time. And 38 was still pretty good. I would not say 40 and 41 were the best Manias of all time. 40 had the best Mania main event. But there's other Manias I would say that were overall better than 40. 41 had some great moments and matches. Was still not on the level overall of 40 or 39. Maybe even 38. 38 it's probably better than, but I'd really have to think about it and compare. 38 had Roman and Brock, which overall was not great. That was not an amazing main event. But 38 had the Stone Cold Steve Austin return. It had the, was that the triple threat for the IC title? No. What was it, 38? I don't even remember. But, even Drew and Corbin kind of exceeded expectations with their match. The Sami Zayn, Johnny Knoxville match was a lot of fun. Logan Paul made his in-ring debut. That was a good match. 38 I thought was good. So I'd honestly would probably go WrestleMania 38 and 39 over 40, 41. But that's not to say 40 and 41 were bad because they weren't. They were overall very good shows. Looking back at the chat here for a moment, Nathaniel said, I'm excited for Cena versus Orton at Backlash. I wonder how long Cena will be champion. Hopefully he doesn't retire and take it home with him once he retires. He won't. He will not be champion when he retires. He will lose that championship beforehand for sure. Nathaniel also said, I agree with you. I wasn't asking for Travis Scott. I wanted The Rock. We all did. What do you think is the worst main event in WrestleMania history, he asks? It might be Cena and Miz from 27. That was a glorified Raw main event. People might point to Triple H and Roman from 32. Not the worst main event, but certainly not great. 34 with Roman and Brock. 33 with Roman and Taker. In retrospect, was pretty fucking ass. Not a great match. That was more storytelling based, but still the match was not great at all and really should not have closed the show. If Taker did not end up retiring on that show, which he didn't, then it shouldn't have closed. That was definitely a mistake. Maybe Hogan and Yokozuna was technically the main event of Mania 9, so probably that. The Mania 11, like WrestleMania 11 was not great, but the Bam Bam Bigelow Lawrence Taylor match honestly exceeded expectations. So I can't even say that you could say that is the worst Mania main event. Probably just because it was a celebrity match that meant nothing really. But I think there's other matches that are less fun than that, to be perfectly honest. So I'd probably go with some of those as the worst main events in Mania history. Cody and Cena is not among them, but the other ones that I mentioned probably are. Judd, thanks for joining. What's going on? Nathaniel also said, I wish The Rock versus Roman happened at 38 because I was tired of Roman versus Brock. Brother, I can point to at least 10 different instances in the last decade where we could have gotten Roman and Rock rather, and WWE actively chose not to do it. They could have turned Roman heel after Mania 31 and they chose not to. They could have done Roman and Rock at 31, 32 in Texas. If they turned Roman then, they could have done it in Orlando. They could have done it at literally any point, and they actively chose not to. And Rock also did not want to come back. to do it. So they were going to do it at the worst possible time, which was WrestleMania 40. Thankfully, they pivoted, and now we may never get it. Which honestly, if I had the choice between getting it last year and then never getting it at all, I would rather choose not getting it at all, to be perfectly honest with you. Because if we got it last year, it would have been fucking awful, and Roman would have retained, and then nothing would have been accomplished. It would have been bad. Nathaniel also asked, did you like Edge versus Del Rio's match at Mania? It was good, very forgettable. Like, I don't look back at that as being one of the best world title matches at Mania or one of the best openers. It was good, but not a match I would go back and rewatch. I don't think it's a match I have gone back and rewatched. I rewatched Mania 27 years ago, but beyond that, I have not rewatched Edge and Del Rio like 10 times. It's not really a match that stands out. But Edge's last final match as part of that run before he had to retire like a week later was, at least it was a good match, and he walked out of Mania still the World Heavyweight Champion. Although I did want Del Rio to win at that point, Edge winning in retrospect probably made the most sense. Fernando said, Cody versus Cena was very mid, and the finish was very anticlimactic. Yeah, I can't say I disagree with that. That finish sucked. The actual match, it's not even like they had a great match marred by a bad finish. Even the match itself was kind of mid. Especially compared to the match from the night before on night one, which was significantly better. That match was way better. Back to the questions here. These are going to be all over the place. But Grunt asked the question about, he said, okay, hear me out. What if the blow-off to this El Grande Americano gimmick is a match with the returning El Generico? You know, it's funny. I was thinking about that. At Mania. Like, what if they had El Generico come out? It would have to be in the, I mean, is it the blow-off to El Grande Americano? No, because Sami Zayn just came back on Raw this week, so it's not like, I mean, I guess you could have Generico come back or come out. Could they even call him El Generico? Like, not that there's a copyright on it, but legally, I'm not sure if they could. Sami Zayn's already back now, but you would have to do it in the right city, because, like, if they did it in Sheboygan, whatever, like, no one would give a shit. Like, it would have to be in a town that would get it. If they did it on the post-WrestleMania Raw, then sure, but you're not going to blow it off that quickly because El Grande Americano just won at WrestleMania. Still has the Rey Mysterio feud. He just beat Rey Fenix. Honestly, I could see them doing Gable/Americano versus Vikingo at the AAA Worlds Collide show in Mexico coming up this summer. I could totally see that. So I don't think generic, like we've also not in, I was thinking about that idea, but then I was also thinking that would get us a Gable Sami Zayn feud. We literally just did that last year. We do not need to run that back. So the answer is no, but I'll give you bonus points for creativity. His other question was, this is such a random question. Grunt, you have the most random questions sometimes. He asked, seeing as we're coming off a WrestleMania weekend that featured several title wins, can you rank these objects you can win in a wrestling match that are not a championship belt from worst to, this is so, like, if you look at this list, Grunt, like, what is this shit? Anyway, so can you rank this shit from worst to best? And the list of items he included were a championship title contract, a trophy, a crown, a diamond ring, another wrestler's mask, another wrestler's hair, cash, a pink slip, custody of a child. I mean, honestly, I'm not really sure why you would want another person's kid anyway. So I would put the custody of a child shit at the bottom. Why would you want to add, like, why would you want someone else's kid? Like, who gives a shit? I know they did that with Ray and Eddie, I get it, but, like, otherwise, why would you care? It's more so just to take it away from the other person than it would be to have for yourself. You would gain custody of the kid, and then you would be like, well, I have no use for this kid, and then just fucking send him to an orphanage anyway. So, to me, that's at the bottom. A pink slip, you want to fight for a pink slip? Like, that's kind of confusing. Like, is that the loser? Unless it's an AEW and the loser, like the winner gets to leave the company. Otherwise, that would be second to last. Of all the things that you mentioned that you would want, or from worst to best, it would probably be custody of a child, pink slip. I mean, the money would have to be top, but, like, how much is the money? You know, you mentioned a diamond ring. The crown would also be third to last. Who cares about a crown? Who gives a fuck? It's all about the money and making more money. So, like, I think the money would be number one, cash. But, like, how much cash are we talking? Because otherwise, I think diamond ring would be number one. You would want the diamond ring first because you could just sell it. Cash would be two. The crown, pink slip, custody of a child would be at the bottom. Who cares about, like, another wrestler's mask and hair? So I'll put those together at the bottom, above pink slip, custody of a child, and the crown. Like, who cares about gaining this guy's mask or that guy's hair? Who gives a shit? Trophy would be just above those things. Again, actually, yeah, I would probably put it above the wrestler's hair and another wrestler's mask. But like a trophy, again, what are you going to do with it? Who cares? And so I think the best things would be diamond ring, then cash, and then a title shot contract. So from best to worst, it would be title shot, or rather, diamond ring, then cash, then title shot contract, trophy, wrestler's mask / hair, because it's the same thing. Who cares? Crown, pink slip, custody of a child. So that would be my ranking. Very, very random question, but that would be my ranking. Let's see. Nathaniel asked, what if Rock beat Roman at 40? That would have been crazy. Thank you, Alexis. I'm glad you're back safe. Nathaniel said, if Rock beat Roman at 40, that would have been stupid. That would have been even worse than Roman retaining. The only thing, it was a lose-lose because either Roman retains and holds on to the championship, continuing on for another 4 years, which would have been awful. And Rock winning would have been even worse. To build up Roman for 4 years and then have him lose to The Rock of all people would have been terrible. That would have been awful. So that would have, honestly, I would not have put it past the company either. Would not have put it past them because I feel like The Rock would have wanted to do it and they may not have told them no. So quite honestly, like, that could have been very bad. So thankfully that did not happen. Judd asked, was Hulk versus Warrior good? That was a great main event from the 6. You also said, what is your opinion on Cena's, Cena breaking Flair's record? No issue with it. Flair's record is imaginary anyway because, 16 world championships was just the number they came up with. He won many more world championships than that in all the promotions that he worked for. I'm not really sure how they settled on 16. But honestly, if you're going to call someone the greatest of all time like John Cena, then having him win the record for most world championship wins in WWE history makes the most sense to me. Fernando said Mania 9 was the worst Mania in history. It probably is. Honestly, 11 might be worse. I'd have to go back and look at the 2 cards, but it's either 9 or 11. 27 and 29 are all up there, but at least those shows had some pretty good matches. Like, people shit on those shows, and as do I. But even 32, 39, or 32, 29, 27, were all at least, they had some pretty good matches on the card. Overall, they were not great at all. But still, those shows had some better stuff than 9 and 11. So, of those 2, it might be 9, but I'd have to compare the cards between 9 and 11 to definitively say which one was worse. Back to the questions here. Jordan asked, Jordan B., when you started watching WWE, were you mostly on Team Raw or on Team SmackDown? I was a team... It's a good question. When I started watching WWE, I'm Team SmackDown now, and I have been Team SmackDown for probably the last 10 years. But when I started watching in 08, SmackDown still meant something in 08. I was Team Raw. Raw was the show that I, first started watching. I liked what SmackDown was doing, but when SmackDown got into 09, 2010 territory, it was fucking awful. So I'm going to say Raw. I was honestly always a Raw guy. I became more of a blue brain guy as the years went on, but Raw was what got me into WWE. I watched SmackDown later on, and I enjoyed SmackDown in 08 and a little bit in 09, but for the most part, and even Raw was not great in 09 by any means, but Raw was always my go-to. If I missed SmackDown, it was fun, but I always loved the fact as a kid, and it's back on Friday nights now, but I always loved the fact as a kid that it was on Friday nights for SmackDown, so I could always watch it, it's not a school night, and I could watch it late and whatever. Always enjoyed that. Beyond that, though, I was probably Team Raw. I'm Team SmackDown now and have been for a long time, but I was probably always more so Team Raw. I think my first WWE show was a SmackDown taping, but Raw was really what I wanted to go to. Let's see. Micah asked, knowing what you know now about your life currently, what is one piece of advice that you would go back and tell your past self from 10 years ago? Good question. Honestly, I feel like, literally speaking, I probably wouldn't say anything to my younger self just because that would create a paradox in time, as you would learn from Back to the Future. But beyond that, honestly, just stay the course because I feel like everything happens for a reason. So if you go back and kind of tell your younger self, oh, do this, don't do that. The people obviously have regrets, but I feel like that would change the course of where I could be now, which I wouldn't change a thing. So honestly, I would just say stay the course. I wouldn't really give much advice beyond what I would later learn, but even that might take away from the future course of history, if we're literally speaking here. So it's a good question. I could probably answer that in more depth at another time, but I would probably just tell myself to stay the course, be yourself, and good things will happen. Don't compromise your morals and identity and stuff like that for whatever else, for whatever you want at that point. If you just stay the course, things usually have a habit of working out. Let's see. That's all for the YouTube questions, and I'll go to the Twitter questions in a moment. Let's go back to the chat here for a second. SmackDown was the better show in the Ruthless Aggression era. It was, Fernando, you're right. The thing is, I wasn't watching at that point. I started watching in 2008. So, I mean, Raw was also not as good at that point, but I'm just saying, there really wasn't, like in 2009, 2010, 2011, it was kind of comparable. What was better, Raw and SmackDown? It was all the same shit at that point. No real brand split. But in the Ruthless Aggression era, when it really first started in like 02, 03, 04, SmackDown was the infinitely better show. For most of that time, SmackDown was a much better show. Nathaniel asked, what's your favorite SmackDown match ever? Mine was Edge versus Eddie Guerrero. Favorite SmackDown match? That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, Orton and Christian I regard as one of my favorite feuds of all time from 2011. I don't know if those are my favorite matches, but I enjoyed their matches a lot in 2011 on SmackDown. They had matches on pay-per-view usually, but they had some good matches, some very good matches on SmackDown around that point. I'm trying to think of like 08, 09. 09 had some good matches with like Jericho and Rey Mysterio, with like Jeff Hardy and Edge. When they brought back the brand split in 2016, there were some really, really good matches. Richie, what's going on, my man? He said, we are so back. What's up, chat? Richie, hope you're doing well, brother. Thanks for joining us. JCW also joining us. What's going on, my man? Thank you for joining us, JCW. I do have your question that I have not answered yet. He sent that in through Twitter. I will answer that a little bit later on. So Nathaniel was asking me, and I'll ask you, Richie and JCW, what is your favorite SmackDown match? Honestly, I'm trying to think. Like, I have a lot of favorite Raw matches. Favorite SmackDown match, man? I don't know. It's a good question, because I feel like in the early years of my fandom, SmackDown meant nothing. So there really weren't a lot of great matches on SmackDown at that point. I'm not really sure. Brock and Angle Iron Man match was the best SmackDown match ever. It may be, but I wasn't watching at that point, so it's not my favorite. I'm trying to think of like 2016, 2017, 2018. Specifically when they brought back the brand split in 2016. I'm trying to think if they did any matches on SmackDown at that point that really stood out, because I love SmackDown. That latter half of 2016. Here's one. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it was Grunt's also here. We got the whole fucking party here. Grunt, thanks for joining us, my man. Hope you're doing well. I answered some of your random questions earlier, Grunt. You said that question about the items and what you should win, what was on the line in a wrestling match, was very fucking random. I appreciate the question, but it was very random. I just actually answered it a couple minutes ago if you want to go back and listen. And Richie said, I might have to go with the obvious answer of Brock and Angle. Yeah, like I said, that's probably the best SmackDown match, but it's not my favorite because I didn't grow up on it. For me, and this match stands out, one of the best SmackDown episodes I have ever seen was the last one of 2016. It was the wild card show, they called it. They did American Alpha won the tag titles that night. I think they did Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss in a steel cage for the women's championship. It wasn't a cage. It wasn't inside of a cage, but they did a match for the women's championship. John Cena returned that night. They did another match I don't remember. But they did the main event. It was AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, and Dolph Ziggler, I think, in a triple threat for the WWE title. I really fucking liked that match. I really, really liked that match. Again, not my favorite, and it's definitely a dark horse pick. But I remember really liking that. I'm just trying to think of other matches on SmackDown that I remember really, really liking. And I feel like if you go on from there, there's not a lot of great picks. The gauntlet they did with Kofi, or the New Day running the gauntlet for Kofi on SmackDown in 2019 was really well done. I was actually there for that in Connecticut back in early 2019, so that might be on the list as well. There was a match they did during COVID between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. Haven't gone back and watched it since, and it's kind of, tampered by the fact, it's kind of hindered, rather. by the fact that there's no fans and it was inside the Performance Center. But AJ and I think Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental Championship, a great fucking match. They got a long time too, and I think that was the night that AJ Styles won the vacant Intercontinental title. So that was really good. Thinking about 2021, 2022, 2023. I don't know. 2023 maybe. SmackDown was really at its peak. You know, Roman had a couple of really good matches as world champion on SmackDown. He had a really good match with Montez Ford that's kind of underrated. He had a very good Hell in the Cell match with Rey Mysterio on SmackDown, believe it or not, back in Father's Day weekend 2021 that I remember really enjoying. The Matt Riddle match also happened on SmackDown. That was for the undisputed WWE title, I think in June of 2022. I believe that was also a good match. So yeah, I'd have to really go back and think about it. I'd not watch every SmackDown, but really think about what are my favorite SmackDown matches. Those are just a few that come to mind from the last couple of years. Fernando, I'll go back to the AAA question in a second, but JCW said TLC 3 will always be his favorite SmackDown match. Grunt said, yeah, picking your favorite match versus what you think is the objectively best match is always difficult. For sure. I mean, the best match is Brock and Kurt, easily. I'm not even going to disagree with that. My favorite is not that because I wasn't watching at that point, so I don't really have any attachment to that match. JCW said Kurt Brock and Kurt Edge are also up there. Yeah, I would agree with that. Grunt said, like I watched SmackDown between 04 and 06, which wasn't exactly the show's best years. Yeah, I mean, nostalgia, you know, it's a very real thing as far as you may think of that as your favorite period of SmackDown, but overall, it's not a great period, so I would agree with that. Richie said, I'm so dumb because I'm biased since I was there. Seth versus Edge. Oh, I forgot about that, Richie. I was also there. Honestly, I forgot about that. That's also one of my favorite SmackDown matches. I would agree with you. I don't know if it's my favorite, but you're right. Rollins Edge 2 at MSG, SmackDown, September 2021. September 10th, 9th, I think, September 9th, 2011, if I remember specifically. I totally forgot about that. So yeah, that's also on my list. Matthew asking, thank you, Matthew, for joining us. He asked, hey, brother, did you go to WWE World or WrestleCon? WrestleCon I wanted to, didn't have a chance. I would have fucking died if I did anything beyond what I did. WWE World I checked out for like 45 minutes. It was cool. Cool as always. I don't like the fact they don't have free pictures and autographs with the bigger stars like they did last year. They took that shit away, which is annoying. But the overall thing looked very cool, and I think people enjoyed it. Was I happy that Jay won? Judd said, yes, I was very happy that Jay won. Nathaniel asked, Seth versus Edge. MSG is also good, but the worst is Kofi Brock for the WWE title. I'm sure there's worse matches than that, but yeah, that's not in anyone's favorite match list. That was just bullshit. As far as Fernando asked earlier what my thoughts are in WWE buying AAA, I don't know if I'll be able to get into it tomorrow with RJ, so I'll just talk about it now a little bit. I am skeptical. I mean, WWE buying any promotion makes me worried. They bought Evolve, years ago and did nothing with it. Evolve isn't AAA, but Evolve was a pretty, strong independent company, and they just died during COVID, and WWE didn't run it as a separate entity. They are now. They're using the brand name for it's like the NXT of NXT. But in 2020, they just took its remains, bought the footage, fired most of the talent they ended up hiring from Evolve, and that was pretty much it. So I hope that doesn't happen with AAA. I mean, some of the people on the roster, fucking Alberto Del Rio, are we serious? Who gives a shit? Their roster is questionable. I don't really follow AAA at all, really. I hope the company just doesn't die, though. I mean, there's so much history there, and they do have some really good people under contract. I hope they can just continue using it as a separate entity and not fire everyone. So WWE working with any promotion makes me skeptical. It's cool. It is cool. We could see WWE working with AAA, and Vikingo could be in WWE at some point. I honestly don't really see this working out well for AAA. I mean, they really didn't seem to be in a great financial spot to begin with if they're just selling to WWE. So long term, it may not work out well. In the interim, it might be cool. So, Matthew said, I'm not going to be there. I interview wrestlers, so meh. No, I didn't interview anyone at World, but I went anyway. It was cool. I mean, there's just a lot of walking, and it's the same thing every year. They do a lot of different activation things, like the entrance thing, and they had a Topps trading card thing. I didn't really have a chance to walk around, but from what I saw, it was cool. Grunson, my sentimental answer might be Batista versus Jericho in 2009. Not a great match by any means, but it was the main event of the first WWE show I ever attended, so that I guess that'll do. Was that the dark match, Grunt, or was that a match on SmackDown? When did Batista and Jericho have a match on SmackDown in 2009? Oh, was it like late 09 when Batista was teaming with Rey against Jericho and Big Show? I'm trying to think. It's like early 09, Batista wasn't there. Batista got hurt again in the middle of 2009, then came back at the end of the year. So you're probably thinking like September, October. I think I remember that. Yes, Matthew, I do remember we did do an interview recently. How to interview wrestlers. I mean, there's just how do you contact the people? It's all on their websites. I mean, they're very selective, honestly, with who they let interview their talent nowadays. So, I mean, if you just look up on the website, if you literally a quick Google search will give you all the answers that you're looking for. They may not get back to you, but at least it's worth a shot. Nathaniel said, I bought a new Spider-Man blanket. I'm excited for Spider-Man 4. That movie, hopefully he's in Doomsday and Secret Wars. I don't think he's in Doomsday. I mean, he has his own movie coming out like a month or two after Doomsday, so I don't think Spider-Man's in Doomsday. He could be. Not saying it's possible. I don't think he will be. He will definitely be in Secret Wars. And Spider-Man 4, I'm also excited for. I feel like they kind of had the great arc with 1 through 3. I'm kind of skeptical what Spider-Man 4 is going to look like. But I know they announced the new name recently, and it's coming out next year, next summer. It's kind of a quick turnaround time, but hopefully it's good. And I don't know if it's going to be any better than No Way Home. No Way Home was incredible, so we'll see. But I mean, we'll see what happens. What happens next summer with the 4th movie? I think it's. I do have high expectations for it, just because it's coming right after Doomsday, so it should be an important movie. Grunt said to clarify that it was a match on TV that Batista and Jericho had. Batista has just announced on Raw this week that he was jumping over to SmackDown, and yeah, that led to the Batista Mysterio versus Jericho match at Hell in a Cell. Yes, I do remember that. So Batista came back on Raw, the Labor Day episode. He went to SmackDown, and that was his first match. I remember what you're talking about. But yeah, Batista had his first match back with Orton. I think he beat him that week on Raw, then went to SmackDown so he could team with Rey, who he then turned on at bragging rights. So I do recall that. The match itself, I don't remember it being anything special, but, it's a sentimental thing, like you said, so that makes sense. Back to the questions here that a couple people sent in from Twitter. Let's see. At Iwagu91 asked, Io Sky became the first Japanese wrestler in 27 years to prevail at WrestleMania. Your thoughts on that? That is fucking crazy. I guess that was said on commentary this week on Raw, obviously. So I was there, so I didn't hear the commentary. I didn't know that until I saw your question. I heard about them saying it on commentary after I saw your question. But if that's true, that's crazy. I mean, that means obviously Shinsuke never won at WrestleMania. Shinsuke had a couple of matches at Mania. He had the match with AJ. When else did Nakamura wrestle at WrestleMania? Did he ever wrestle again at Mania aside from the tag team match at 38 with Rick Boogs? Him and Boogs versus the Usos? I don't think he did. I mean, 39. He wasn't at 39. He was around for 40, but he didn't wrestle at 40, I don't think. 37? Was Nakamura on 37? I don't think so. He was King Nakamura later in the year. He won the King of the Ring crown from fucking Baron Corbin. 36, I don't think he wrestled on. And 35, he may have wrestled in a tag team match at 35, actually. But yeah, anyway, so he never won at WrestleMania. Asuka never has. She's like 0-6, which is just fucking depressing. Even Sasha Banks eventually won at WrestleMania, that being 38 when she and Naomi won the tag titles. But rather, Asuka never won at WrestleMania, which is kind of insane. She still could and should, but yet has to do so. So that is unfortunate. But yeah, it was a worthy win. Io Sky winning was cool. It was an amazing match. Honestly, probably the best match of the weekend was that match. And who would have been the last one? I thought she was the first Japanese wrestler to ever win at WrestleMania. You said 27 years ago. So Mania 15 was the last one. Let's see. Was it Taka Michinoku? I'm just going to look it up now. WrestleMania 15. Or WrestleMania 14, I think, is 27 years ago would have been then. So let's see. WrestleMania 14. What Japanese talent was on that show? Oh, yeah, Taka Michinoku. Yeah. He retained the light heavyweight championship. Did anyone that was Japanese win at Mania before that? That's crazy. I mean, that's a terrible stat as far as like, how did no Japanese talent win at WrestleMania before that. It's not like they don't have Japanese talent. Akira Tozawa, Asuka, Nakamura, Kairi Sane, a lot of them. You know, a lot of Japanese talent that never won at WrestleMania, which is pretty wild. Your thoughts on the Universal Championship being officially retired with Roman Reigns being recognized as the final champion? I think it's great. I mean, hopefully going forward, they can stop calling the WWE Championship the undisputed WWE title. Now that the Universal Championship is indeed dead, just retire the undisputed aspect of it and just call it the WWE Championship. That is according to their website, by the way. Cody Rhodes, I thought, was technically the Universal Champion, but if Roman Reigns is recognized as the final champion, then they got to change Cody's bio on WWE.com because it lists him as being a Universal Champion, but he's not. So if Roman Reigns was the final champion, which he should have been, you know, he retired it after the 1,000-day run, then they got to take that off of Cody's.com bio. But that's just being like, you know, very nitpicky with the details and shit. But otherwise, I'm glad they retired that lineage because if they kept the lineage, because it was still technically 2 titles, it wasn't one undisputed WWE title. They kept the lineage of the Universal Championship and the WWE title when Roman was champion. So Cody, I thought, was a 2-time world champion, but technically he's just a 1-time if they're not counting his run as being Universal Champion, just the WWE Championship. But I like that. That makes a lot more sense. And I'm glad they didn't say it publicly, but if you look at the website, then it's official. So thankfully they cleared that up, which was long overdue. He asked also at Iwagu91, your thoughts on Jeff Cobb being set to join WWE. I think it's awesome. If it is indeed true and he is coming in, I think that's great. Jeff Cobb is awesome. I became a big fan of his work in Lucha Underground as Matanza Cueto, and then especially as Jeff Cobb himself in Ring of Honor when he was there from 2018 through 2020. Then he went back to New Japan, and you know, I saw some of his work in New Japan. He was great in New Japan. He was also great whenever he would pop up in AEW, but his Ring of Honor stuff I especially enjoyed, and I also loved him in Lucha. So if he is headed on over, that's awesome. I'm a big fan of his work. I am very surprised, honestly, he's not going to AEW just because he's been there before and they have the working relationship with New Japan. He wouldn't even have to move, maybe. But, you know, if WWE wants him and he thinks he has a shot there to do whatever, whether it be in NXT or on the main roster, I think that's pretty fucking cool. I think I'm a big Jeff Cobb fan, so I hope that is true. And they bring him in to do something. What that would be, I don't know. I'm very skeptical that he'd be used properly. But he's also 43 at this point, so it's not like he has his whole career ahead of him. This is more of like a Tama Tonga situation. Tama Tonga, let's double check. I feel like he's like 40. Tama Tonga, he's 42, so it's almost the exact same situation where it's like these guys are older. They're not going to be world champion. They're not going to be, they're not going to be mid-card champions. I just typed in Tama Tonga's name, and I did not know this, but apparently this was reported yesterday, and I missed it, that reportedly he's actually out with an injury, is Tama Tonga, with the belief that surgery may be required. No timetable, and LA Knight slammed his hand in a car door on last week's SmackDown. So, well, that sucks. So both Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa are out. Well, that sucks. So basically, the bloodline is dead. It's just Solo and Jacob's now the United States champion. So now that Tama's going to be out and Tonga Loa is out for a little while longer, well, then I guess that's it on the bloodline. I guess that spells the end of that. We'll go back to the other questions to close it out briefly, but let's go to the chat here. Nathaniel said, Graham Doom will be the villain in Spider-Man 4 because he looks like Peter's mentor. I don't think so. Maybe, but like Doom is the main villain of his own movie of fucking like 2 months earlier, so that just doesn't make sense. They will absolutely interact at some point, but in that movie, probably not. Grunt said it's either that or Batista Mysterio in Benoit versus JBL Orlando Jordan and Eddie Guerrero from the post-SummerSlam 05 SmackDown. Interesting. Yeah, he said also, again, it's nothing special, but I was hyped for it because I was still riding the high from the pay-per-view. Yeah, no, I don't remember. I haven't seen that match at all, but that's pretty cool, though. Nathaniel said, who do you think will beat Cena for the championship? And at what pay-per-view? I feel like the safe answer is just Cody at SummerSlam. Honestly, the more I see Cody, or rather Cena talking about, oh, my last date's left, and he might count down his final dates up, and like he might be a heel this entire time, which honestly I would not be opposed to. At the very least, he should be a heel through SummerSlam as champion. I think he's losing the belt right back to Cody, which honestly makes the most sense, and I really have no issue with that. If you want to build someone new, I don't know who that would be. I don't know. I'm not really sure who that would be. I just feel like Cody's probably the odds-on favorite. Punk is not a new star, but Punk beating Cena would be awesome. I just don't see that happening. Grunt said, about damn time they retired it, but if they retroactively take that away from Cody, that's dirty as hell. I mean, not really. I mean, honestly, if Cody's not recognized as a Universal Champion, it's really not that big of a deal. They should have retired. I'm glad at the very least, they recognized Roman's run. Like, they didn't just retire it. I mean, Cody beat Roman, so like he is the final champ. It's not like Roman just retired it because he just retired it. He retired it because he lost to Cody. So technically, Cody should be considered a Universal Champion, but the fact that he's not really isn't that big of a deal. JCW said that Universal title was so badly misused, glad it's gone. It was also an awful name and a disgusting design. So yeah, I am also glad that it's gone as well. Richie said, remember when the crowd booed the unveiling of the Universal Championship? LOL. Yes, I was there as well for that SummerSlam 2016. And the people booed. It really ruined that Seth Rollins-Finn Balor match, which wasn't amazing anyway. It was a very good match, but they could have done better. The crowd was just too distracted with booing the new belt because it was just so fucking ugly and unimaginative. Richie said, my goat Tonga is injured. First Tonga Loa, now him. It is disappointing. And you also said, what's the point of watching WWE anymore without them? I agree. No real incentive to watch SmackDown now without Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. Grunt said, yeah, it would have been cool to have him in AEW, but to be honest, we got enough talent over here. They don't need to rush out to sign anyone else. They should use who they already have. Honestly, that could be said for both companies, WWE and AEW. As long as they have a role in mind, I don't care. But if they just sign people to not use them, like what the fuck happened to Hikuleo? You know what I mean? Like they signed Hikuleo, never factored in the bloodline stuff, and now it doesn't matter because the bloodline's probably over. So what was even the point of saying Hikuleo if they weren't going to use him? Doesn't make any sense. Fernando said Trick Williams should be the third man in the new Heyman faction. That's interesting. I don't know if I'm on board with that. I feel like he should be called up as a babyface, but that's not an awful idea. I mean, again, it would give him direction, more direction than Carmelo Hayes, so I can't complain about that. Grunt said his face turn will happen when he loses his last match. I mean, that might be the direction they're headed in. I thought they might turn him before that so they could do the whole redemption arc, but they might turn him in his last match. That is true. Fernando said, I never liked that name of the Universal Championship. Very happy for the name change. Yeah, it was garbage. Why not? Like, I thought it was great when Triple H brought back the World Heavyweight Championship in 2023 as the World Heavyweight Championship. Not the same lineage, which bothers me. I mean, nitpicking, who cares? I know that probably bothers Grunt as well. Just call it the World Heavyweight Championship, which they are, but use the same lineage. It's almost the same design. They should have just done that. They should have just brought back the World Heavyweight Championship in 2016 and not called it the fucking Universal title. That was so stupid. Awful, awful name. Nathaniel said, if Cena is a heel for the rest of the year, then I'll miss babyface Cena. I mean, he will turn babyface in his final match, at least at the very end when he leaves. I think he will be babyface Cena for the final stretch of this run, but we'll see. Nathaniel said Finn Balor was the first Universal Champion, but never won it back. That was the peak of Finn Balor's career in the company. Honestly, like his peak in NXT, really his peak was in NXT, but like the highest point that he reached in WWE was as Universal Champion. Like he was the first inaugural world champion on the Raw brand, and he may not have been champion for all that long anyway. But like they never pushed him as a main eventer after that. And honestly, like again, it could have been a Kevin Owens situation where he got the belt and then he never was pushed to that same level after that. But at least he would have had more than a fucking day as champion. Like he had to vacate it immediately, which sucked. But yeah, like he was never really at that level again. They never saw him as being a main eventer. He was always just a mid-card guy or like right below the main event. He got plenty of opportunities at World Championships against Rollins, against Brock, against many other people. But he never really was viewed at that same level, which was unfortunate. Richie said, why not name it the Ava Raine Championship? I think they named the 24/7 Championship the Ava Raine title as soon as they put it in the garbage a couple of years ago. I think that you might be thinking of, Richie. Nathaniel said, I thought Edge was winning at 37, but I was happy to see him main event, but happy he won gold in AEW, just didn't do it in WWE. It is crazy, honestly, that they didn't give Edge at least one championship run with anything in WWE. Not that he needed it, but like, one more world championship, even if it was brief, would have been cool. But, like, I don't know, AEW, he's wrestling more in AEW, so it makes more sense to give him a mid-card championship there, and he's probably going to win the tag titles at some point with Christian. But yeah, in WWE, like, he was there for 4 years. Not even actually. He was only his run was like 3.5 years because he left in later 2023. Never won a world title, never won another championship. Again, didn't need it, but it would have been cool, you know. Just considering all the stuff that he did do, it would have been nice if he held one more championship before he called it a day. Let's wrap up with these last 2 questions here. And then we'll go back to the chat and we'll wrap up from there. I know this is a lot shorter than what we usually do. We're only at the hour mark. Typically, I don't start answering questions until like fucking 2.5 hours in. But 1, I'm tired. 2, I'm in pain, and 3, this is a different day and a different time for the show. We should be back on schedule next week with the show next Tuesday around noon, 11 a.m., 1 p.m., whatever. So keep an eye out for that. But anyway, Millennial Noob, who was here earlier in the chat, sent in a question on Twitter. Thank you for sending him the question, Noob. He said, if Becky Lynch is a heel to go after the Women's Intercontinental Championship, the top heel, Liv Morgan, is the Women's Tag Team Division. So who's going to be the heel to go after Io Sky in the Women's World Title? I would like to see a heel Asuka against Io Sky. That would be interesting. Yeah, I would want to see that too. They had a couple matches back in 2023 on SmackDown that were great, but like it wasn't a full-fledged feud. So yeah, I thought honestly it would happen on Monday's Raw. Like, we know Rhea has unfinished business with Io Sky. I don't really want Rhea winning the belt back, though, from Io. I just don't. I mean, it wouldn't be terrible, but, like, I don't know. I'm just kind of worried for Io when that happens, where she goes from there. If she was going to retain at Mania, like, I was perfectly fine with Io losing that belt at Mania. But then she won. So now I'm like, okay, now I kind of want to see her hold the belt for a little bit longer. Rhea's probably just beating Io for that belt, not as a heel, and they shouldn't turn Rhea anyway. That would be dumb. If anything, you turn Bianca heel, but she has to go over to Raw, so there's a whole kind of issue there. But anyway, yeah, Asuka and Io would work. Becky's going to be busy with Liv, or with Lyra rather, and Liv will be busy in the tag division. So you could still have Liv go after Io because, you know, she's the tag team champion, but who gives a shit about that? But the problem is we already saw Io and Liv briefly, not as a full-fledged feud, but they kind of feuded for a little bit there late last year. You can run that back this time with the Io as champion, so it's not awful, but I would prefer Asuka as well. I would put Asuka in that spot and have her break away from Damage Control, and they don't... Honestly, you could just break up all of Damage Control and it wouldn't matter anyway, but Asuka certainly does not need to be in the group at this point, so you could break off Asuka from the group and have her feud with Io, and that would be pretty cool. So I don't know exactly what's next for Io. It could be one of the call-ups. It could be a Julia or a Roxanne. Honestly, either one of those would be great. But Roxanne should probably resume the feud with Bayley when she comes back. She could have been the one to attack Bayley, not Becky. We just don't know yet. Roxanne is not beating Io right out of the gate, so honestly, I wouldn't do that. But Io and Roxanne eventually is also fucking cool. Last question here that was sent in already at JC or JDCW555. So, Jeremiah, thank you for the question. I know you're here on the chat, so thank you for the question. He said, hey, Graham, hope you and Alexis had fun at WrestleMania 41. He asked, so what was the deal with WWE personnel this week acting all pissy in the media? From Nick Khan saying that WWE doesn't bench talent despite all the evidence to the contrary, to Triple H saying that WWE doesn't pivot despite them saying that word 1,000 times during their WrestleMania XL documentary that they fucking produced, by the way, to Triple H basically telling fans to consume their product and not critique it, and that landing like a wet fart so much that he had to walk that back a day later. Not to mention all the weird political stuff. Are things cracking behind the scenes more so than what we know? I seem to remember WWE personnel acting like this kinda around WrestleMania 42, but to nowhere near this extent. Don't get me wrong, Tony Khan can be pissy too, but it seems like WWE personnel this week were especially pissy. Yeah, they were doing more media than ever before for WrestleMania. I don't know what's going on over there. Their PR team, as far as like this sort of shit and allowing it, it's a fucking mess. I know they've had a lot of internal changes. I could tell you that as a fact as someone who deals with the PR team in WWE. They've had a lot of internal changes. I don't know if they just don't give a shit at this point. I don't know. But like you would have never heard them talking like this in the past. I know they've taken a lot of shots at AEW, but like even the political stuff, how does that stuff even happen? Like the political state that we were in a year ago was just as bad. At that point, obviously, we had a different president. But they could have asked, who they were voting for then, and they didn't. I mean, they asked about it this year, though, which was interesting. Don't get me wrong. You may not like the answers, and I may not like the answers either, but, for them to even answer that, like, they didn't have to answer at all. But it's not even like, honestly, I probably would have preferred a no comment in that situation, but if you're going to answer it, like, honestly, I'm going to be totally transparent here. Roman's answer about the whole political thing, I didn't think was that bad. What I thought was bad, and, he has his reasons, which you can respect or not respect. I totally respect that. Roman's answer was not bad. What I thought was bad was Triple H talking about how Trump has heel heat. He knows how to get heat. Like he's a fucking general manager on Raw. Like this is our goddamn president, in the United States anyway. I know, Grunt's here. He's from Canada, whatever. He knows how to get heat. No, he's just a piece of shit, honestly. That was just ridiculous. I thought to myself, why the fuck would you say that? And then Nick Khan also talking, we don't sign people and bench talent, unlike that other company. That was my question for Triple H. I was at the press conference, and I was not invited to the press conference on night 1. I don't know why, but I wasn't. I was invited to the press conference on night 2, and I wasn't sitting in the press box. I had to move all the way from where I was sitting in the crowd to the press box. It was a whole ordeal, which was fine. I had no issue doing it because I was like, okay, cool. I'll go to the press conference. I usually go to the press conference. I usually ask a question. I've asked the question to pretty much every single one that I've been at. And I had my hand raised for almost everyone that was out there. John Cena not answering any questions was just fucking stupid. I'm sorry. That was embarrassing. I don't think that was funny. That was just a waste of time. Triple H comes up. He gets asked a bunch of softball questions. What else is new? But if I got called on, my question for Triple H was, what were your thoughts on what Nick Khan said the other day? Like, do you agree? Obviously, he's not going to disagree with his fucking coworker, but like, I would love to see what stupid answer he gives to that question as far as we don't just sign people and bench them, where in the cases of people like Omos, Sheamus, Natalya, among many, 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 many other people, they just do not use. They do, and these are people that just recently resigned, Sheamus and fucking Natalya. I don't really give a shit about Omos so much, or even Natalya, but like they resign these people and then they don't use them. That is 1,000% fact. I'm very curious to see how he would have spun that, but I wasn't called on, so what can you do? But no one pushes back on these things because they know they give these answers that are just fucking garbage. They give answers like this. Even John Cena with the whole I love Vince McMahon thing, like no love for the victim is that at all. Like you're not going to even mention the people that Vince was that he affected. You're not even going to mention them. Like, fuck you for that, honestly. But the problem is that the outlets that they give these answers to are not fans. They have no idea what's going on. So like Bill Simmons is a wrestling fan, but he's not in the weeds enough to follow up on Nick Khan and be like, yeah, I don't think Sheamus has seen TV time in a couple months, so that's not really true, is it? They're not going to say that. So that's why they say that shit. Taking shots at AEW. AEW takes shots at WWE all the time. It goes both ways. But especially on a week where it should be about your product and not taking shots at AEW, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. I thought a lot of those interviews and a lot of the answers I saw come out of the week were just awful. They just said a lot of stupid shit, and that just did not make sense. Something just fell. But yeah, I think they could have done a much better job of avoiding that PR disaster they had at Mania Week. It was just an all-timer as far as why even say something so stupid? And honestly, just on all accounts, not with just one of the things I mentioned, but a lot of them. The pivot thing and Triple H shitting on the fans. He wasn't saying that stuff last year. It's because they were enjoying the product more last year. Now that there's actual critiques with the product, he's mad that people aren't, showering with praise the same way they were even a year or so ago. And the things that he does great deserve to be praised. But he could also take accountability and say, yeah, that wasn't so great. Differentiate yourself from the previous regime by actually owning up to something when it sucks. You know what I mean? Like actually own up to the fact that what you were doing originally was not good. And most of the time, usually they don't do that. I know they're a company they're not obligated to. But then don't shit on people when they have actual opinions for shit that sucks. Yeah, there are bad faith, opinions out there for people that just hate WWE, that hate WWE, or hate AEW because they're just AEW. They just hate the initials, and they don't even watch the product. I understand that. But like there are actual critiques from people such as myself or people online, and just because we're not in the or we might be in the minority, then they're not going to listen to us. Like the Jey Uso thing, I agree. Like, that's just dumb. If you don't like Jey Uso, that's fine. But Jey Uso gets massive reactions every single week. It's not like he's out there getting booed. So, like, that one makes sense, where people are just shitting on him just for whatever reason. You don't have to like it, but he's over. That one I accept, and I like Jey Uso. But some of the stuff with people criticizing the road to WrestleMania, which was indeed underwhelming overall, he says those people don't matter. The internet's not real. Yeah, there are instances where people are just overly negative, but you can't differentiate that from the people who have actual opinions that matter. You know what I mean? Like, that was another question I had that did not get answered because they didn't call on me for a question. So it's almost like why even bother going if they're just going to ask, oh, what's next for John Cena on Raw? Like, who gives a fuck? We'll find out on Monday night. What's next for John? Like, what are your thoughts on John Cena ruining wrestling, bro? What are some of these questions? I'm not saying I ask like hard-hitting questions every single time, but like when there's an opportunity to ask a question that actually means something, coming off a week where this company was not held accountable at all for some of the dumb shit they said in the media, why not ask them these questions when it actually matters at an opportunity like this? Instead, they'll go with people that'll ask like just shit that it just doesn't matter. I don't know, man. Whatever. He also said in his comment here, Jeremiah said, also, this is more so a rant, but I never want to hear another WWE fan say, let it play out and see where the story goes ever again. It's clear that there's no big master plan with WWE storylines, and they're flying by the seat of their pants like always, except replace the whims and ego of Vince McMahon with the whims and ego of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So I agree and disagree. I agree with the Dwayne stuff, and like The Rock, there is no master plan there at all. I do think Triple H has way more long-term storytelling than Vince ever did. Vince had long-term storytelling, and sometimes it sucked. But, I think there is a lot more long-term stuff. The issue is, it isn't the case with everything. A lot of the stuff with the Mania card this year was changed, had to be changed, was changed because it wasn't working. But again, they won't admit that. Like, the media, people who criticize the product are always wrong. It doesn't matter what we say, we're always wrong until we're right. Like, honestly, if Rock did not get booed, if, like, people were not chanting Cody's name last year in the build-up to Mania, they would have gone forward with Rock and Roman and said, oh, yeah, the majority loves it, so fucking stop complaining. But because people started to chant it and it actually became an issue, that's why they changed course. And Rock, it didn't fulfill his ego to be getting so much negative, shit online, such a negative reaction. He didn't like that. And also probably in the arenas, too, when they were chanting Cody, he wanted them to be chanting his name. So, I don't know, man. It's just funny. It's not the exact same thing. Triple H's regime of creative is far better than Vince's towards the end there. It's not even close. I wouldn't even compare the two as far as that goes. There are situations where you do have to let it play out. I mean, that is true. But there are other situations where it's clear they have no fucking clue what they're doing. At this point, you cannot say let it play out with The Rock. There's no long-term plan here. He's messing up shit just because he wants to come back and get a buzz, get a fucking rush of adrenaline from the crowd. There's no plan there, so don't even bother. Some other stuff I do think there's a plan. Like with the Rollins stuff, I feel like that's been in the works for a while now, and they probably didn't come up with the idea to have Braun Breaker join them that night on Raw. They probably came up with that a while ago, and they just kept it under wraps, which I like. But some of the other storylines, not everything is mapped out in advance. So when Triple H says, oh, let it play out, see where it goes, like with the Rock Cena stuff, there's no master plan. I'm not going to let it play out. That's garbage. There was never any plan there to link the two up beyond what we saw at Chamber. There's no involvement from The Rock that will make it make sense. It's fucking stupid. Fucking dumb. So I agree. Do not give me that bullshit. Do not insult my intelligence like that. Let's see. Backing up a little bit. I acknowledge the tribal chief. Okay, we got a lot of acknowledge the tribal chief here. Let's see. Your tribal chief has been acknowledged. Let's see. I had to put Daniel or whatever his name is in timeout because he wanted me to acknowledge the tribal chief like 30 fucking times and it was annoying. So I'm gonna put him in timeout. If Alexis was here, she could have done it, but I don't know why she's not here. Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's see in the chat. Fernando said Chelsea Green and Bailey were screwed out of Mania spots. There was 2 nights in a row. There was no excuse for that. Listen, there's not a spot on the show for everyone. The Chelsea Green one didn't really bother me that much because, like, to do what? To have her do it. I mean, she could have hosted the show, to be fair. I saw that report. She has nothing going on right now. And that is a problem, but, like, they could have done Nikki Bella and Chelsea Green, but they didn't build that up at all, so you're not going to do that. An open challenge, we already had like fucking 3 or 4 different matches where you had mystery people getting involved, like Becky and Joe Hendry and Phoenix. You weren't going to do that with Chelsea. Bailey's the one that really bothers me because Bailey was advertised and then they took her off. And that was never, like, that was always the plan to take her off. And she's a big name. It's not fucking Ivy Nile. Like, Bailey should be at WrestleMania. That to me was bullshit. That was stupid. Don't even put her in that spot to begin with. Just have her miss the show or don't advertise her and then not put her in there. That was very dumb to me. Daniel, what's going on, my man? Dan is here. Great meeting you the other day. I said that at the start of the show here. But Daniel, hope you're doing well. Always great to see you here in the chat. Still in recovery mode from the weekend. Me too, Daniel. Me too, as you could probably tell from my voice and just the fact the show will be shorter a little bit more today than usual. Richie said, do you think Jordan Grace making the save on Monday instead of Rhea Ripley would have been a better option? Question mark. I'm afraid of the fans getting tired of Rhea, and she should get a break as well. Rhea getting a break would be good. It depends what they're going or where they're going with Rhea and Bianca and Io and whatnot. I still think we get Io and Rhea soon. No, I don't think. I mean, Jordan would have been cool, but it's like you're not just going to put all these women from NXT on Raw if they're not going to stick around. You know, like they had to put Rhea on the show. If she's supposed to be around feuding with Io, which I assume is probably going to happen, then she should have been on the show. I would give her some time off, but it depends where you go with her. Like, is she going to develop her character and become more vulnerable? The internet might turn on Rhea. The crowds are not. Rhea is the most over woman on that show. So will they turn on her at some point? Maybe, but we'll deal with that when we get there, because in the meantime, she's getting amazing reactions, so clearly the company's not worried about that. But Jordan Grace, no, I wouldn't have put her on Raw, because we don't even know, like, she's not getting called up right now, clearly. Is Stephanie getting called up, and Julia and Roxanne? A lot of NXT talent on the show, which was great, but were they there to get called up? Or were they there to just further a feud in NXT and give that more exposure before that show in Vegas the next night? I'm just not sure. Richie also said, I think the company was upset at low ticket sales for Mania. They were not sold out despite them telling us they were. Yeah, they were definitely not sold out. And everyone calling the build-up poor, which is a fair assessment since it was. Yeah, The Rock was like, oh yeah, they had me at Chamber because of poor ticket sales. The Chamber was selling just fine. Then don't have him involved. Like The Rock, then just have The Rock make a fucking appearance. He made an appearance on the Netflix Raw, which amounted to absolutely nothing. Don't get him involved with the Mania storyline by having him, lead this attack on Cody that goes nowhere. It made no sense, bro. It made no fucking sense. Richie then said, I think Roman looked as bad as someone who's a cancer survivor, rather. And the orange guy in office got cancer funding research. Triple H giving that heel heat answer was such a boneheaded thing to say. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that Roman connection there. That's a good point. The Triple H answer it was just fucking dumb, man. It was just a lot of dumb shit that he said about, specifically about Trump, but just really just in general. Punk and Rollins were out there doing damage control. They were, because their answers made a lot more sense than Roman and Triple H and John Cena. I'll tell you that much. Grunt said, just watched your answer to my question. For the record, the last two options were just me trolling. Okay, I see what you're saying. I'm cooking right now, Richie. I appreciate that. Let's see. Johnny is here. Johnny said the people in the audience love Jey Uso and people on the internet hate Jey Uso. Not 100% true. There's obviously some people in the crowds that don't care for Jey, and there's a lot of people online that like Jey Uso. It's not everyone on the internet hates Jey Uso. That's not true, because I like Jey Uso a lot. Would he be my pick long-term for World Heavyweight Champion? No. But I think the storyline with him was, they got it better by the end there. He's very popular. You can't deny that. And I like the guy, and he's had a great character arc in the last 5 years. So I do not hate Jey Uso at all, or the fact that he won, or anything like that. I think Jey Uso is very good. Again, he's not the guy that you build a company around probably, but to say that everyone on the internet hates Jey Uso is just not true. Fernando said, a lot of what Nick Khan said was not true, hypocritical. Like saying they don't bench talent. Where was Chelsea Green and Bayley at Mania? Where is Alexa Bliss and Omos? You can't have everyone represented at Mania. I said that before. Alexa Bliss and Omos make more sense with what Nick Khan was saying. Because Chelsea and Bayley did re-sign or signed or whatever, and they do get used. Alexa Bliss and Omos have re-signed or have been around, and they don't get used at all. So that's more so where that answer is relevant. Grunt said apparently the WrestleMania roast was something. I heard some clips, or I heard some talk about it. Who could have seen that coming? Where now Nia and Charlotte have issues with each other because of something that Nia said about Charlotte. Who could have seen that coming? wrestlers just have such fucking egos. I mean, they can't really take criticism about their matches, let alone their appearances and whatnot, which they really shouldn't, to be fair. But about their matches, who gives a shit? They get bothered about that sort of shit, let alone a fucking roast the weekend of a very stressful WrestleMania where they're getting flown back and forth. That's another thing, by the way. This wasn't a question. I'll just mention this real quick. The general consensus in Vegas, WWE is doing way too much. They're just so fucking greedy, man. So fucking greedy. They upped the ticket prices not only for Mania, but for World, Hall of Fame. You're going to pay $300 to watch fucking Michelle McCool go on for 30 minutes? What the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, honestly, like, it's just ridiculous. And they ask these talent, I feel bad for the talent. I don't feel bad for the company at all. It's their problem. But, like, the talent are getting sent every which way. And I heard from a lot of people who went to World that were like, Bianca was an hour and a half late for this. That's not her fault. It's because she's doing media over here. She's doing appearances there. Stop spreading the talent so thin. You have 1 million people on your roster. Use those other people to do that sort of stuff, or don't book them for 1 million appearances. Last year, I met all these other people for the price of admission. We got to meet Bobby Lashley, Gunther, Ricochet, bunch of people, all for the price of admission. Never paid a dime extra to go meet those people. This year, you had to pay $80 for a picture with fucking Otis. It wasn't Otis, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's something like that. It's like, dude, it's ridiculous. I mean, again, especially when you give something to your consumers for free for so long, and then you expect them to pay $100 for a quick picture, an interaction that lasts 10 seconds. That, to me, is just extremely disrespectful. It's the TKO effect. There's pros and there's cons, but for that specifically, they've lost the plot. It's just, they got to stop. They have to stop. I think they really reached their limit this year. Like with the WrestleMania After Dark thing, I was there. It was a fucking bust. On Friday, it sucked. It was no different than the average nightclub because all the people they advertised didn't show up until 2 o'clock in the morning because they were at the Hall of Fame. Why should Liv Morgan have to sit through a 5-hour Hall of Fame ceremony and then go to a fucking nightclub? She looked like she was having a good time. So, I mean, all credit to her, which was great. But, like, that's just, I mean, she has to wrestle the next day. Fucking figure your shit out, bro. That made no sense. Why would you advertise a nightclub thing, an experience with the talent, the same time as the Hall of Fame's going on? Again, man, it made no sense. Richie said, but guys, Dwayne is a long-term gamer, remember? Yeah, I saw that quote on the timeline the other day. What a dumb thing to say, man. Stupid thing to say. Triple H, or Johnny said, Triple H didn't like the questions he or other wrestlers got asked a while back. Yeah, they got asked about Vince, and I mean, Triple H should be asked about Vince. When he said he didn't read the affidavit, remember that whole thing where he said he didn't read the lawsuit a year and a half ago? Dude, that's your fucking father-in-law. First of all, why would you say that? Second of all, why wouldn't you read it? It's your father-in-law. It's your company. But yeah, honestly, I think they got asked actual questions there for a little bit, to the point now where I think they didn't like that. So now they pick on certain people that they know might ask actual questions. So they just go to the people that are going to ask something fucking like about the metrics and the numbers and how successful Mania is and putting the card together. Who cares? Who cares? Like, if there weren't actual questions to be asked, like if fucking Akira Tozawa is up there, you're not going to ask him about what Nick Khan said, obviously. But Triple H is a very relevant person to ask those questions to. And he got asked about none of that. Because he'd rather talk about how great everything is. This is great. Tony Khan does the same shit, but Triple H is now falling in that same category. This is great. That's great. Well, what we do is great. It's great. We sold out even though we didn't. It's great. It's not great. It's good. Some things can be great, but not everything's great. You got for every praise that you get, you also have to address the criticism. And very clearly, they're not doing that. Johnny said, what was your match of the night on night 1 and night 2? Night 1, easily the main event, and night 2, easily the opener. Honestly, overall, it was probably that women's triple threat. But the night 1 main event was also great. Johnny said earlier, let's see. Johnny said, I got to backtrack a little bit. Say his name and he appears. I believe in Matt Graham. Matt Graham. Who do you believe? Who's Matt? Matt who? Is Matt Graham their name? I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did put him in timeout, Reggie. That guy. And then he came back, I guess, and Alexis put him in timeout too. Talking about the tribal chief. You got to calm down. This Dayall guy, you got to calm down. The tribal chief. We acknowledge the tribal chief. Now shut the fuck up. Micah said, yo, man, you had some great seats at the show. What was your favorite match being there live? Thank you, Micah. We appreciate that. Big thanks to the Clash of Clans crew, honestly. Like I said this earlier, the WWE side of things this weekend was a fucking mess, honestly. Like I mean, it's not really a personal thing, but like just a lot of the way they handled some things over the weekend was very questionable. We'll just leave it at that. But we got taken care of big time by Clash of Clans, who I know sponsored the World Tag Team title match, and you can have your opinion on that. But the actual company that we were working with them, and I'll have an article out about them and their involvement with WWE. They were really the ones that got us a lot of great access and the seats. I'm very glad for this Mania, I was not in the press box. Usually I want to be up there, and I did. It was a bummer not having my laptop with me at the seats. But we got a great view, and it was a fun time overall. So big thanks to those folks and the Netflix folks. The Netflix folks really took care of us, specifically on Monday with the Raw show. We got to sit in a suite. We got to go to the Netflix Bites place and get some great food. And we talked to Kit Wilson, actually, of Pretty Deadly, or maybe it was Elton Prince. I forget their names, but the guy with the darker hair. He was fucking awesome. He spent like 10, 15 minutes talking to us, and he was amazing. Very nice guy. And that was all courtesy of Netflix. WWE's just, they're kind of a fucking mess right now behind the scenes as far as that sort of stuff goes. But anyway, Micah said, what was your favorite match being there live? For me, definitely the women's opener. Night one was great. That CM Punk entrance was an all-timer. The women's opener night two was probably the best, the best match of the weekend. Nathaniel said, do you think we'll see Becky versus Bayley this year for the championship? For the championship, I don't know. In general, yes. We probably will. For the main title, no. For the IC title, probably. I could see Becky beating Lyra, and then we getting Becky and Bayley, and then Becky loses to Lyra down the road. But yeah, we could get Becky and Bayley for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. That is very possible. Johnny said the TLC match being on SmackDown is a horrible choice. That was fucking dumb. Again, I get it. They definitely did the World Tag title match at WrestleMania because it was sponsored. The SmackDown match was not. I think that's bullshit too. I don't know why they just couldn't have used the sponsorship for a different match. I'm not a fan of that at all. That SmackDown tag title match should have been at WrestleMania. Easily. New Day and Raiders had a good match. Not Mania worthy, though. The SmackDown tag title match should have been at WrestleMania. Without a doubt. Very dumb that it's not. Very, very dumb that it's not. Micah said, JD from NY said that The Rock is basically sabotaging Triple H's booking because Rock wanted Cody to turn heel to get back at Cody for what the fans did last year to The Rock at WrestleMania. What do you think that's true? That's kind of more so conspiracy theory, but I'll say part of that could be true. Honestly, we put the tinfoil hats on, but at this point, nothing's impossible. Because The Rock is just doing whatever the fuck he wants to do. I don't think he's intentionally sabotaging WWE's creative, but by doing Rock things, he's doing it inadvertently, and I could totally see that. Absolutely. Absolutely. It might be by accident, but he's absolutely sabotaging creative with his bullshit. Nathaniel said I would have just let Bayley be at Mania and Becky can return at Raw. That's what I would have done. I don't know why you had to take Bayley off of Mania for that. But I know Becky came back as a babyface. I get it, but I still wouldn't have done it the way that they did it. Otherwise, the execution I liked. Daniel said, finally meeting you was for sure one of the highlights of an already stellar weekend. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. It was for us, too. And I said this, I texted you this, and I said this before, and I'm serious. Like, the best parts of these weekends at this point for me is meeting new people or seeing other people again that I haven't seen in a long time. That, to me, is the best parts of these weekends. The interviews and shit are very hit or miss with the access and stuff. WWE has a lot of work to do as far as that goes. But the people I get to meet are always, top tier. It's always class acts and people like you, Daniel, like people that we've interacted with here on the streams, whether it be for months or for years. And there's still a lot of people. I don't know if Grunt's still here, but Grunt's one of those people. Grunt I've known for over a decade now. And I've yet to meet him in person. And hopefully at some point we can. Micah, same thing. People like that. I appreciate you guys so much. But yeah, it was an amazing experience and definitely one of the highlights of my weekend as well, Daniel. So thank you again for making that happen. It was a real pleasure. Micah said the fact that we could have had Rick, Scott, and Cena doing this faction on the Build the Road at Mania 41. And then Rock did the finish, and we didn't get it is crazy. Oh, you mean Rock, not Rick. Yeah, Travis Scott and Cena. Yeah, no. Rock's like, oh, yeah, the focus isn't going to be on me. Well, listen, brother, you made the fucking focus on you when you came back. So either don't come back or come back and do the shit. That's what I'm talking about. Like, he wants to do it, but not actually do the work to make it happen. It's stupid. Doesn't make sense. So he should have never come back to do the whole Cody heel turn or the Cena heel turn in the first place. Cena turning heel without The Rock would have been 10 times more shocking. I figured the Cena heel turn might happen as soon as Rock said the whole sell your soul thing, because we knew Cody wasn't turning. The Cena thing, I didn't say it was happening, but I thought it was more likely, especially when Cena was in the ring with The Rock with Cody at Chamber. If Cena and Cody just set up their match and Cena turned on him, that would have been 1,000 times more shocking. Rock did not have to be there for that shit. Johnny said, I always remember the card is subject to change. Bayley will be okay. I don't know about that. Yeah, the card is always subject to change. But she's not fucking hurt. Card is subject to change when someone is hurt, like Rey Mysterio, and you have to replace him. I get that. Bayley is one of your biggest female stars in that company. Bayley just did an interview with Chris Van Vliet where if you saw the clips, read between the lines. She is not happy with the fact that she's not on Becky and Charlotte's level. And why not? She came up at the exact same time. And it's not a case of Bayley not being good, because she is excellent. She's probably the most well-rounded performer of all the four horsewomen. I mean, she's not, mic skills are not her strong suit, but she can connect with the crowd. She could be a babyface. She could be a heel. She's great in the ring. She's helped elevate a lot of talent. She's probably able to elevate way more talent than Becky and Charlotte, have to be perfectly honest, and Sasha too. But she just is still at the same spot she's always been at. And I don't think it's because she doesn't deserve to be at that level, because she does. She belongs in that upper echelon. My point is, I say all of this, I could see her leaving. I know she just re-signed about a year ago, but she also said in that same interview her contract's up in like a year and a half. I could absolutely see her going to AEW. If she feels disrespected, and I don't blame her, I could absolutely see her leaving. She loves WWE, but if they keep treating her like shit, like they would not, let's put it this way, would they do that to Becky? Would they advertise Becky or Charlotte for a Mania match and then pull her last minute? The answer is no. They would not do that to them. They also wouldn't stand for that shit either. Bayley probably shouldn't have either, but, that's her prerogative, and I get it. Nathaniel said, I saw The Rock and McAfee show. It was crazy. It was fucking dumb damage control is what it was. Mike said, I honestly think The Rock should have committed to WWE and WWE only for 2 years. Do some storylines to dream matches. No movies, just do wrestling and then retire, go into the Hall of Fame. Listen, brother, I agree. He did that when he came back in 2011. I mean, he wasn't around all the time at that point either, but he made way more appearances than he has as of late, during that time frame anyway. I think that would have been great. Come in, wrap up the Rock storyline, or with Roman rather, which is what we were all hoping for coming out of Mania last year. Now we've barely seen The Rock since then, and it's been one disaster after another. Nathaniel said, I don't think Jey Uso will have a very long championship run. He doesn't need to. Honestly, he shouldn't lose it on Monday, but Backlash might be too soon. It was all about the moment with Jey. The reign itself will not be great, I guarantee you. But Jey can be champion for a month or a couple of months, and it's totally fine. He's an underdog. It was more about the moment itself. And Daniel Bryan was an underdog, but Daniel Bryan can also carry a title for a substantial period of time because he's one of the best in the world. Jey Uso is far from it. He's not even top 20 in the company. But he can win the title, get that moment, and then lose it a little while later. So he doesn't even have to hold it till SummerSlam, honestly. It could be a couple of months and it would be okay. Grunt said Pamela Martinez is all elite. Not completely out of the question. Daniel said, I don't know how his Hollywood interviews go, but in wrestling, he constantly leaves me baffled with the things he has the audacity to say out loud. If you're talking about The Rock, I agree. It's very similar in his interviews for Hollywood. I talked to someone over Rumble weekend who interviewed The Rock, called him a complete fucking diva. He was great on camera, but off camera he was a diva. I've heard other things from other people calling him a great person. And I don't dislike Dwayne Johnson. I don't dislike The Rock. I dislike the shit that he does as far as involving himself. I'm a big Rock. I love The Rock. I think The Rock's great, and I enjoy watching his movies and shit. But this is the sort of stuff that pisses me off. And yeah, Daniel was talking about Dwayne. All right, he said. Johnny said, I don't like WWE doing roasts and getting political. Yeah, a lot more political shit as of late. They weren't as political when the other guy was our president. Let's put it that way. Now that we have a new president, they seem to be a lot more comfortable talking about their political views, which is interesting. And again, they get asked these questions. They don't have to answer them. They probably shouldn't. It alienates your audience, regardless of what side of the fence you fall on. The Roman thing doesn't really bother me. His answer wasn't terrible. Triple H's answer was terrible. That I will say. Grunt said, oh, there's a clip of Orton going around of him meeting fans that apparently paid $30,000 for their tickets, and they weren't even floor seats. I saw that. Yeah, Micah said the exact same thing. Did you see Randy Orton's video talking to a fan, and the fans saying their tickets were $30,000, and Randy responded, that's ridiculous. You think you will get in trouble for that? Orton ain't getting in trouble for shit. He ain't getting in trouble for shit. Randy Orton can get away with pretty much everything, especially when he's telling the truth, but they won't say shit to him. And he would just tell him to fuck off anyway. But he's right, $30,000. I mean, why would you want to pay $30,000? Are you there with like your family of 10? $30,000, bro, that's insane. Johnny said WWE might try to buy All Japan Pro Wrestling and Rev Pro. Is that the report, or are you just assuming that? Because I don't know if that's true. I could see it though. I know they're working with Noah, so I could see that being more likely. Micah said WWE should use Maxine on the mic more. Yeah, and Maxine's good. Probably better than what her in-ring work, so you're probably not wrong on that. What new members would you add to the Seth Rollins stable? I saw a Theory's name being bounced around. I honestly don't know if people would care. He's been so beyond buried, I'm not sure if people would give a shit, to be perfectly honest with you. Theory's an option, though, given his history with Rollins and their little faction. I don't know. If you're going to call up someone from NXT, I saw someone say Ethan Page. I love the idea of Ethan Page being in that group. I'm going to say Ethan Page. I could see him with the suit and all that other shit. There's no obvious plan for him on the main roster seemingly anyway, but he should be on the main roster. I love the idea of Ethan Page being in that spot. And also, Ethan Page does not like CM Punk from their interaction on NXT in storyline. So you could pick up with that if Rollins, Breakker, and Ethan Page are feuding with Roman and Punk and maybe someone else like Cody eventually. I feel like that would work. Alexis said, I agree about Maxine. I love how they did that. More of that, please. Are you talking about what they did on Raw this week? Because if so, I like that too. Richie said $30,000 is a brand new car or a down payment for a house. Be better. Yeah, seriously. I don't know what's worse, honestly. WWE charging those prices or people being dumb enough to pay it? You paid $30,000 to watch Travis Scott come down to the ring and help John Cena win the title. Be for real. Johnny said TKO better, their favorite theme song is Teddy DiBiase's one. Yeah, it's all about the money. Money, Richie said. All about the money. Becoming corporate changes, people like Triple H, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're bad people, but some of the stuff they've been doing as of late is certainly questionable. Richie say, LOL, relax, bro, it's Wednesday. Acknowledge the corner in silence. Yeah, exactly. Shut the fuck up. Fernando said Cody versus Cena was very mid and anticlimactic. Yeah, I know, you said that earlier. Johnny said, was Cody versus Cena worse than Moxley versus Copeland? No, Moxley and Copeland was way worse. Way more boring. That shit was terrible. Let's not get carried away. Moxley and Copeland was one of the worst pay-per-view main events I've seen in quite some time. Johnny also said Toni Storm versus Mariah May. Still my favorite women's match of the year so far. Yeah, I think the women's triple threat for Mania was better, but Toni and Mariah was excellent, though. Revolution still my favorite event so far this year. Yeah, I could see that. I think Chamber was better overall because that Revolution was kind of marred by that terrible main event. So I'll go Chamber, but I think Chamber was better than Mania, to be honest with you. Night 2 of Mania was great, just marred by a bad ending. Fernando said, I don't want to see Travis Scott near a wrestling ring ever again. Me either. I don't give a fuck about the guy. Fernando said, AJ Styles losing to Logan is a disgrace. He should go to AEW when his contract expires. Honestly, that was my first thought. Is this guy headed to AEW? Honestly, that was the first thing I thought. I immediately thought, is this guy going to AEW? And there's been rumors of that anyway. I don't know if it's true. But I saw him lose, and I'm like, honestly, that might not be completely out of the realm of possibility. Johnny said Becky and Charlotte got better treatment than Bayley and Sasha. Yes, they do. That is true. That's why Sasha's not there. Sasha is happy that she doesn't have to be in the shadows of other horsewomen. I mean, it's not even like that she was in the shadows of those women. They just treated her like shit behind the scenes a lot of the time. And she's definitely making more money in AEW. Tony Khan doesn't give a fuck. He's going to pay her whatever she feels that she's worth, which I may not agree with myself, but that's just what it is. Micah said, where should WWE go with Rusev? Maybe Rusev versus Sheamus. I was thinking that too. The only issue is we've seen that before like a decade ago. But honestly, that'd be a good use of Sheamus. I think the matches would be good. They had great matches like a decade ago. Run it back in 2025. Good use of both guys. I'd really have to look at the Raw roster to see who Rusev can work with, but I like that idea. Rusev and Jay at some point could work. I don't think it's going to happen, but Rusev and Jay would be cool. I don't think Rusev wins, but you never know. Let's see. Nathaniel said, in my opinion, I think if The Rock is going to be committed, he should be there, Graham. I agree. If he wants to say that he's committed, he should absolutely fucking be there. Mike said, will Cody get booed upon returning to the tug of war, from the tug of war, and not hitting Cena with the title? He might. Honestly, that shit was that bad, it might have hurt his popularity with the fans. He won't get overly booed, but Cody's getting closer to getting booed more and more, and they got to turn him before he gets to Roman Reigns level from 2015. I don't think they should. I've always said that he's a couple years away from turning heel, but it depends what the reactions are and how he's booked when he comes back. If he gets overwhelming cheers, and it doesn't matter. But if it's more 50-50, they might be more inclined to turn him heel in the not-too-distant future, probably within the next year or two. Maybe even sooner than that. The TLC match would get 30 minutes. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it will. I mean, we're talking WWE here in their fucking tag team division, but it's a 3-hour show, so there's no reason why they shouldn't. Will they? Probably not. Grunt said, definitely making me question if I could even afford to attend WrestleMania in Toronto if I wanted to. I mean, hopefully by that point, the business starts to dip a little bit and tickets are more affordable. But we'll see. I don't want to say that I want the product to be bad, but when the product's not like as hot as it is, then they have to make the tickets cheaper because people aren't going to pay to see a shit show. Grunt said, yeah, I know I said earlier we don't need anyone else in AEW but AJ Styles, though. That one I agree with. I could see and I wouldn't mind it. Daniel said, I used to like Fiend, but now I never want to hear that song ever again, LOL. Yeah, I know. I honestly, the song over the weekend grew on me because I was there as well, so I'm biased. But we heard it so much, I am good on hearing that song again for the rest of my life. Rusev versus Gunther, not a bad idea. I mean, they're both heels, so you'd have to turn one of them. Not a terrible idea, though. That would be a first time ever, and it would be cool. Rusev and Jacob Fatu would be, meat versus meat. I'm all on board with that. That would be great. That would be great. I mean, you'd have to move Rusev to SmackDown or Fatu to Raw, but I would be on board with that. Rusev and Braun Breaker, I like Johnny, but they're both heels, so probably not. Rusev versus Tyreek, I can get behind. Rusev versus Tyreek or Rusev versus Love Ziggler. Those are the matches I could see. It's more a matter of whether WWE wants to book it or if it's just going to make them too much money. Tyreek, we haven't heard from in a while, so hopefully Tyreek's doing well. We didn't scare him off. Tyreek, I don't know where you are right now, but we need to know this Love Ziggler nickname. I can't get that question answered until you're here. We miss you, buddy. I'm convinced Alexis scared him away. Johnny said, how do you feel about WWE buying AAA? We talked about it earlier. I will just give you my quick, short answer because I don't want to repeat myself for those that have been here, but I'm skeptical. I hope they keep the lineage and the history of the company in place, but I'm skeptical for sure. Rusev and Sami Zayn? Yeah, I could see that. They didn't do that originally when Rusev was in the company, I don't think, so I'd be down for that. Daniel said, hopefully they actually have a plan for Rusev and he doesn't just become Andrade. I agree with that too. Andrade was honestly directionless from the first time they brought him back a year ago. So hopefully it's not the same thing for Rusev. And Grunt said the first TLC match in the main roster in nearly 5 years, and it's on SmackDown. And will probably be cut up with breaks. Yes, I also agree. That's pretty dumb. Micah says, can you rebook WrestleMania 41 with the people we got on both nights? No. That would just that's a whole fucking video. No, I'm not going to do that, but I will tell you, Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan versus Liv Morgan and Raquel versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, I think would have worked. Becky and Lyra, they could have just done the fucking turn months ago. I'm not really sure why they didn't. Becky and Lyra one-on-one. The triple threat for the men was great. I would have just done Bianca and Rhea one-on-one. I mean, Io being involved was great, or Io and Rhea. Io and Rhea and maybe Bianca and Jade. I don't know where Naomi fits in there is the issue. Tiffany and Charlotte, I would not have changed that. I probably would have just done Punk and Rollins and just kept that going and done Roman and Jacob Fatu. Probably Roman and Jacob Fatu to kind of close the chapter on that because they never really did. Those are some of the matches I would have done personally. AJ and Logan I still would have done, even though it wasn't, exciting all that. It wasn't really all that exciting. And then Grunts at NXT Mexico coming 2026. Yeah, I saw that rumor. I hope they don't call it NXT Mexico. That would be dumb. I know they want global domination, but you don't have to call it all this dumb shit. You know what I mean? They don't have to call it NXT Mexico, or if they buy Noah or, All Japan Pro Wrestling and they call it NXT Japan. That would be dumb to me. The NXT UK was a failure, so let's try to learn from that and not do the exact carbon copy, because trust me, it's not going to work. I think that does it, guys, for today's video. We ended up going a little bit longer than I thought we would. We're almost, an hour 40 minutes in, hour 40-ish minutes in, so that's not terrible. Shorter than usual, but that's just because I'm tired and we didn't get a ton of questions. But I'm so glad everyone could join us here in the chat. Thank you so much for everyone watching live and sending in questions and comments. Always great interacting with you guys. First time here live on the channel in about a week. And you get kind of double the fun, because we'll be back tomorrow here on the channel, I believe, live WrestleRant radio reviewing WrestleMania. All the WrestleMania weekend activity or festivities, thoughts on Stand and Deliver, Raw on Monday. A lot of stuff to get into tomorrow with Mr. Marceau. I got to just check the time with him, see when we can do it. And when we do it, we will be live here on the channel. So if you can be so kind, be oh so kind, and be sure to like the video, drop a comment on this video after the fact, after we are finished going live here, and subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified every single time we go live. You'll never miss a stream when we do it. And as we wind down here, Fernando said, fire stream as usual. Thank you. Thank you, Fernando. I appreciate that. Richie and Grunt saying the same thing. W stream. Thank you so much, guys. Always great seeing you here in the chat. Richie said, having a white man cosplay as a luchador defeat a Mexican at Mania after the AAA announcement already leads me to be skeptical about this partnership. I can understand that. I honestly think El Grande Americano is a very fun gimmick. Long-term may not work. It's definitely questionable. But the timing with the AAA stuff is certainly questionable. They have a lot of luchadors. It's more a matter of how they use said luchadors on their shows. And we'll see how it works out. As long as it doesn't lead to Del Rio coming back to the company, that's all I care about. Do not bring back Del Rio, because he's the AAA champion. We do not need fucking Alberto Del Rio on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Evolve, fucking pre-show, bathroom break. We don't need him on anything. So as long as it doesn't lead to that, that's all I want. Or don't want, I guess. But anyway, if you guys will be oh so kind, again, to please consider signing up for a membership. It's the WrestleRant All Access Pass. I mentioned it at the beginning of this video. I mention it every single week. But shout out to said channel members. If you become a WrestleRant All Access Pass channel member, then you can unlock top billing here on #AskGSM and WrestleRant Radio. So I will answer your questions and topics first before anyone else's. Shout outs at the beginning and end of every single video, which I'll get to here in a moment. Discord access, which I will be opening up at some point, badges and emojis and the live chats, members only live streams, and also early and ad-free access to new videos, to certain videos. So haven't been able to do that in recent days just because I've just been so busy at Mania and stuff, and we should be back on track at some point. We still have a WrestleRant ranks to come out, ranking every Mania logo in history, myself and Alexis. Very fun video. Not up yet. I was going to put it up on Monday, and just time got away from me. The time change really fucked me up, and I'm so beyond backed up. I have so much shit to catch up on, it's ridiculous. And hopefully in due time I can. But I still have to watch the Hall of Fame. I haven't watched the Hall of Fame, and I want to watch that. It might take me a week to watch it, but I'll probably watch that at some point. But anyway, all that and much more if you consider signing up for a WrestleRant All Access Pass for only $5 a month. The link to said membership and considering doing so is in the description box down below on this very video. Shout out to our channel members, Alexis, Miss Mod Matthews, Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve1, find him on Instagram at DJ, or at rather just Swerve1, W-O-N that is. Daniel Malcolm, I'm Quarter on X. Of course, Daniel was here with us earlier. He is letter I, letter M, word quarter on Twitter. RJ Marceau, of course, at RJ_Marceau on the Twitter machine. John Ritland, Real Honesty with John Ritland here on YouTube. Check out his channel. And Richie as well, who was here in the chat with us just mere moments ago. Red Planet Wrestling here on YouTube. Find his channel and be sure to subscribe. Did great content over Mania weekend. Saw some of it. He does a great job. So that's it, folks. Have an awesome rest every week. If you want to be sure to send in a question to the show, please do so. The show's back on Tuesdays starting next week. This was a one-off return to Wednesdays just due to the schedule change and traveling yesterday, so we should be back on track next week. But if you want to send in a question, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. And find me on YouTube as well, youtube.com/ this channel, obviously. And drop a comment on the post I usually put up. That's Facebook. What the fuck am I saying? I'm so tired right now, I don't even know what I'm saying. If you want to get your YouTube question involved in this video for next week's episode, just drop a comment on this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. That's what I meant to say. Man, I'm so out of it today, and I'm going to be out of it for a while. So if I'm out of it for a little bit going forward, you're just going to have to bear with me. I apologize. Oh, Richie said, go get some rest, big dog. I'll try. No rest for the weary. But love the Love Ziggler emojis in the chat from Daniel and Richie. You unlock access to those if you become a WrestleRant All Access Pass holder. So please consider doing so, and you can also show your love to Love Ziggler in the chat. But nonetheless, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Take care, and I'll catch your ass down the road.